Chris Brown, Brandon Valley Baseball Association. I have Stuart Peschel, our president, with me here tonight. Last month, I think we applied for we call it a beer license or a liquor license for the state amateur tournament in 2025. And I guess we're just here tonight to answer any questions that you may have and hopefully get approval for that liquor license to go to the council here on December 4th, right? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the application that we put in? I think Al did point one thing out to me that we need to talk about. So I think my wife always says I'm not the right person to do contracts. And once again, I proved her correct. I believe the time I put on there was wrong. I think Al,
Yeah, I don't know if it was wrong. It was just ambiguous. It said 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Well, yeah, is
Yeah.
12 p.m. afternoon is my question. I think we want to make sure it's midnight.
yeah, and we'll work obviously with the city or the park board on what you want to do for a time frame. I mean, we're open to anything. I mean, the games will start at 11, so we may want to look at 10:30 potentially on the weekends. As maybe a 10:30 start time, but if the city wants a last call at 10:30, 10:45, 11 o'clock, whatever that may be, we're willing to support that and do that. I mean, we don't need to be selling beer till midnight. So we can look at what the city would want to do on that front, and then obviously we can just make an announcement during the late game, hey, last call here in the seventh inning of the last game, or whatever we want to do on that front. I know that's what a lot of major league teams do.
Yeah.
It's the seventh inning seems to be kind of the cutoff point, so maybe that late game, maybe we just want to look at the seventh inning of the late game as kind of a last call point for the evening.
And I'm good with that. Technically, the park closes at 11, right? So, we would want to make sure that for sure no beer sales are going on after 11 in case the games would run late, delayed for whatever reason. We just want to make sure that we would not, I would think, not have beer sales past the time when the park is supposed to close.
Perfect. Yep, we completely support that and agree to that, obviously. The night games will be a 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock scheduled. They tend to run a little bit more on schedule now that they use wood bats compared to aluminum bats. Back in the days of aluminum bats, sometimes those state amateur games were ending at 12:30, 1 o'clock. But generally, we shouldn't have weather issues because of our turf. That should also help. I mean, we would stop, obviously, delay during rain, but then we can start up right away, which will be nice. But generally, the games do run in that 2-hour time frame. Now it seems like so most evenings we should be out of there at the latest with cleanup as midnight.
Are you doing wristbands then, or how are you
That's what
doing?
we planned on.
Okay,
Yes, we
perfect.
planned on IDing everybody at where the beer stands are going to be set up. So it'll be one person's. If you've been to like an SDSU football game, how they're doing it, that's kind of what we're planning on doing. The same thing is having a table set up right next to the beer stand, where that person's job will be to identify the age of the potential buyer, wristband them, and then obviously no wristband, no sale.
Do you have a limit, like purchase of 2 per sale, or
Generally, what has been done at the tournaments is the bucket philosophy. I mean, our thought was the max would be 6, where we would do a 6, a 5 for 6 type of thing. That's kind of the popular way that they like to do it at the amateur tournament. I mean, we can work with you on that. If you would prefer us to do less, we can definitely do that. But our plan was to obviously have individual sales and then have buckets available where they could get 6 beers for the price of 5, essentially.
I think as long as it's being monitored in the crowd so that you don't have underage people, there are parents out there who buy beer or, for their kids.
Fair
or
enough,
whatever.
absolutely.
So,
Yep, absolutely.
and I did see the application and the application for the beer for both of them. It did mention security was present, so I think we're covered there.
Good track record from prior state tournament and a lot to work off of there, so. All right, so we have 2 different items on the agenda. The first one is the state amateur event application. Is there a motion?
Move to approve it, go to city council with park board recommendation to approve.
Is there a second? Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's approved. The next one is BV Baseball State Amateur Special Alcoholic permit application license.
And I think just like Chris mentioned, the only thing I'd recommend is we clarify the time on there, move up the start time since the first game starts at 11, move the beer sales up to 10:30, and specify the end time as 11 p.m. per Mindy's recommendation on park closure. And then, as Chris said, they'll probably cut it off at 7th inning, would be last call.
Okay, with that kind of amendment, does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the second proposal for alcohol for the state amateur baseball tournament.
Is there a second? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Adam. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Thanks, gents.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you, guys. Stuart will be the one in attendance on the 4th with the council, so he'll be here with the council that evening. So if you have any questions or anything, Stuart will be representing us that night. And then on behalf of our association, we just want to say thanks for starting that path down there. So that's awesome. I mean, that's going to be a game changer for that facility. So, you know, we'd love to see it go from corner to corner, hopefully someday, which would be great. But we greatly appreciate the start and having that available. I think that'll, A, it'll help clean the area up, but B, it's going to help a lot of people get out to Field B, you know, and the easy path now will be out there. So we greatly appreciate you guys doing that for the park and for the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have,
for coming.
yeah, have a good evening. All right.
I don't anticipate any issues with council. They may ask you to come up and answer a question, but I highly doubt it. But thanks.
See you guys. All right, so we'll back up to item number, that was originally item number 6, Aspen Park play equipment and the request for donation from the city of Hills.
Yep, so we're hoping, I haven't got a quote back yet from the playground company, but they thought they could maybe still do it in the spring. So we won't take it down till obviously then. But there are multiple groups that have expressed interest in the playground. I don't know how we would decipher who we would give it to. But we would still, like we did with Tallgrass, we would just have whoever we're donating it to pay to have somebody come in and remove it. That's kind of what we did before. That worked out good. Then they take it down in a nice way, and they're probably going to be the ones who put it back up for whomever.
And I'm sure whenever we donate something like this, like Lisa draws up some kind of a release of liability for the city on that, just when we donate it, so we're not.
I was gonna say, I thought we did one when we donated the skate equipment back.
I just
Years
think
ago.
if we haven't, it'd be a good idea to get that done. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no, it's a major liability thing, and actually it can be tough to find someone to reinstall it for that reason, so who reached out to us first? Was it Hills or was there people after that?
Yeah, it was Hills reached out a while back, and then I know Harry has expressed interest for White Lake. So those are the two that I'm aware of. I don't know if either one's an official.
I don't know if we have multiple, it may have to just go out for bid.
How does it go out for bid if we're donating?
Well, it wouldn't be a donation, then it would be a bid item, it's like we do, it'd be a surplus, and then we'd have to go, and we go out for bid. We
So
take the
multiple
highest bidder.
people would kind of say that, well, now there is a value to it.
Right, I suppose they would do a sealed
Yeah,
bid
you
of
do
what they'd
sealed
be.
bid.
You know.
We'll
No,
just have to
the-
see if the other ones are really interested or not.
Yeah, the Hills one, it sounded like that was like a,
It's like a city-run daycare type of thing.
and able, if they have the playground, then they can get potentially a grant, is the way I read that, or some kind of funding for this, which is pretty cool.
There weren't any local facilities looking for equipment?
None that have reached out to us, no.
Well, I guess from my perspective, you know, obviously it's good to reuse it and recycle it. So I think it makes sense to see if the other inquiry is real or not. And then if it is, it seems kind of traumatic, but I suppose we'll have to do some sort of bid process for it and just to make it level for everybody. So, I mean, it might generate a whole $10, but you never know. So,
And really, I don't think that any monetary gain is what we're after here.
No.
I mean, it's,
no, but I,
So do we have an official inquiry or an official offer or official request from anybody else but Hills?
Officially written? No.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't
like
think
in
we-
writing, do we have anything that says that we're interested in this or we would like to request this or anything?
Not in writing, no.
so I guess I would suggest making a motion that we approve the donation of the equipment. And if there's multiple entities that are interested, we can leave it up to the city to go through a process to determine who should get it.
that seems very reasonable. I would make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. All right, thank you, Adam. Motion and second. Any other discussion?
Is this now on Devin to just kind of find out? I mean, you'll go back to Harry to find out what the query was. And, okay.
And if there isn't one, then great, you can move forward with Hills but I don't think we should, personally, I don't feel like we need to go through an advertising process or anything like that. We
Well, that's just it. I mean, we don't want to spend any money to advertise and to publish and go all, do all that when we're not making, we're not looking to make money on it. I don't know,
And especially when it's two small communities like this that express the interest, I don't think they need any other competition.
yeah, I mean,
They've expressed the interest and they're both, or either would be willing to pay to have it removed. Seems
Are you suggesting we're a big community?
yeah, we're a whopping community.
compared to others.
I guess, my opinion is that we have the one on, that we have, we should, since it's been on the agenda for 2 months, we don't have any other inquiry,
Yeah.
because we didn't have a meeting last month and it was on the agenda.
A
So,
very valid point.
Devin, how old is that equipment?
19 or 20 years. I think that one's built in either '04 or '05.
So Mindy, I'm sorry, were you saying just Devin should work directly with Hills to get rid of it?
that's my opinion. We have the inquiry, we've had it for a while. It's the only one we've had since it's been on the agenda. That's just my opinion.
All right, so right now the motion is to donate the equipment and leave it up to the city to go through a process to determine who gets it.
Which could even be just taking the one offer we have on the table, if they so choose.
I don't know how serious Harry was.
We can ask him and just find out.
Okay.
I don't really want to blindside him.
All right, so with that discussion, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. We'll let you, Devin, navigate the river. All right, item number 9 on the agenda is 2024 pool fees. I think Christina just copied from last year's, altered a couple of numbers and called it good.
Yep. It's really discussion again. It's, if you guys want to look at it, I did update the revenue expenditure report there, as you see on page 9. Obviously, this year is just as of end of October, so there'll be a few more utility fees in there, a few more expenses in there, but payroll's done at least on that aspect of it. So really, if you guys discuss and decide if you want to move that up and bump that up, those up or not.
What I found very interesting was that, you know, the total revenue was down from pre-COVID and pre-upgrades, but that's because our expenses doubled with those upgrades.
Yeah, and the revenue was different. I mean, the passes were lower. We increased the passes in 2021.
Well, I just meant, you know,
But
the
yeah.
expenses in 2019 were 52,000 and 2023 is 105, you know, and that is just an ongoing expense because of the upgrades, more or less.
There's more there.
Yeah, there's more there. There's, granted, more options and stuff, but we're still losing $166 a year.
Yeah,
We
the
also
largest,
Yeah.
largest change is payroll.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of put that line amount, because Sioux Falls just increased so drastically, and we had to bump ours up, so.
I don't think we have any choice on that, unfortunately.
we
And-
don't.
And I think from a revenue side, last year was about the nicest weather you could get for a swimming pool. So I don't think that usage can be expected to be any higher than last year. So,
I don't know,
I
I think,
did, go ahead.
you know, we've had a lot of inflation. I would be comfortable just leaving the fees as they are personally.
I did look up Sioux Falls's rates, and they're comparable to ours. Like, and then I did look into Brookings too. Brookings is quite a bit higher, but they have a big water park, and it's different because they're not sharing community as far as that goes. So I kind of felt the same way, that rates should stay the same or not go up a whole lot.
Yeah, I think I agree with keeping them the same. I think, you know, Sioux Falls is gonna have a lot of aquatic stuff going on over the next 2 years, so I suspect we'll see some changes in their program, so, I mean, we're all along for the ride when it comes to how that ripples down through the rest of us, so I think we just hold fast and see what shakes out here. That's just me.
Do we need a motion tonight for increasing pool fees, or wait until spring, or how do we want to do that?
No, if you want to increase them, then I would need a motion tonight.
Oh, tonight, okay.
I'm kind of hearing the same, so if you want to keep them the same, that's fine. We're just gonna start going through the rate process here and then with the council and all of our other rates. So,
Have to shift them? Okay, all right, so.
Are we changing the wage rates at all this year? As far as what we're paying?
I do not know yet. We go a lot off what Sioux Falls does, so I kind of wait and see what they do. You know, returnees always get like a quarter bump, but as far as that base rate, that's just gonna depend on what Sioux Falls does, and I think they usually set that either late January or early February timeframe.
Yeah, I think we just wait and see on that too.
So like when you start selling the passes, I mean, if we decided we needed to move them up because we had higher wage expenses, we would still have time to do that.
Well, we've already sold one,
Oh,
and it is open, so they can purchase them at any time.
oh, it is, okay.
But typically, we might have one or two for the Christmas season,
Yeah.
and then there's some that will start after the first year purchasing it.
Okay, any other discussion on item 9? All right. Thank you. We'll go on to item number 10, the Aspen Ridge Park Plan. Thanks, Christina. See ya. If I had known you were only here for this, I would have moved it up. Thank you.
Kind of an FYI, or what was this? Yeah.
Yes, because I don't think we have any new information since last time you saw it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Al.
Oh, I was just gonna say, thank you for doing this suggestion of what needs to be done, so it's in line with what we've already got. Have they seen this now? Has the developer got this?
I don't think so. No.
So, if you're willing to consider, I would suggest a couple edits
Mhm.
that at least I want to think about adding. I think one thing in there, just running through the potpourri of stuff, you should mention benches. Yeah, just because, we'd want those around the playground and stuff.
And the pickleball court.
So did they go with pickleball and not water?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know. Pickleball is on there, on Devin's list. Oh, excuse me, thank you, all right. Okay, so that's just one general thing. Now their general comment would be, from my perspective, I'm very appreciative of them wanting to do this. I think it's a great benefit to their development, but also to the city, but, it would be nice to get some sort of approval over the vendors that are going to be associated with the splash pad or the playground equipment and that kind of stuff. So, as we all know, there's a big difference in play equipment and the types, and it'd be nice to kind of know what they're proposing, right? I know there's a general kind of layout plan of the park. I think once they find out who their vendors are and kind of have their pricing, I personally would like to see an update of that, so to see how it all fits in. And, I know Devin mentioned as part of the restroom shelter that one unisex restroom was probably adequate. I wouldn't disagree with that. I prefer to call them family ones. But
I did question whether one would be adequate if we're having a splash pad up there and the playground equipment. I
Well,
mean, I
technically-
don't know.
So, all right, so that would be a good question for Paul and kind of what code he's going to use to approve it. Because if it's the international code, it would be based on the amount of water surface and stuff, and that dictates kind of the number of toilets. I think in this case, it's likely to be a pretty small surface area, so we would probably be okay with one, but I'm just guessing.
My only thought was having one at each end. I don't know how big the park is, how long it is. So if you're playing pickleball, is it a hike to go up to the bathroom? I know, I'm not very good at judging distances
Yeah,
on paper, so.
That park's not very big, so.
If you look at like Pioneer, for example, there's no there's porta potties down below, but the only bathroom is up above. So if you are playing soccer, you have to hike all the way up the hill. I don't think it's out of line just to put one.
Yeah.
So is the distance about the same?
Uh,
250
yeah,
from the
it's,
pickleball court to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's totally short
too-
in the scheme.
right.
Like the football field, that's
300.
Yeah. So, no, I think, yep,
hard time judging. Me too.
I think it'll be okay. So that vendor comment would apply to a lot of the things in the park, right? But also I think when it comes to walk widths and that kind of stuff, it'd be nice to know, right? Just from, and then specifically on the splash pad, and I know you mentioned this in your notes, and I think it's probably what you meant by it, Devin, but you mentioned the surge tank in there. So that would imply the recycling and reuse of water, right? So, I think we need to make sure that Devin's okay with the chemical storage tanks and that kind of stuff, right? That they're an adequate size and.
Do you know how City of Sioux Falls is? Do they call it Pioneer Park? That's off of like
Yeah.
Ray Street.
Yeah.
Do they have a surge tank? Do they recycle that, or is that just water that's wasted? Because I know they have the push button to
Yeah,
start it.
that was their first one that they ever did. I don't know the answer to that. I suspect it's recycled.
You do?
Yeah, most of them, at least all the new ones, are all chlorinated and are recycled because they don't want to waste the water. And and from my perspective, we would inherit the cost of all that as far as wasting all that water, which is I mean, so I think the cheap way to build the splash pad is to waste it out, right? Because there's more of an equipment cost and,
And I suppose if you didn't save the water, you wouldn't ever have to treat water, so you don't have to deal with chemicals, but chemical costs are pretty low in the grand scheme of things anyway.
and I think with all the water conservation measures that we as a community have been pushing over the last decade, I'd have a tough time looking someone in the face and saying, yeah, we're okay with that. So, and without the developer being here, and they may not even know the answer to that, but, that is a cost difference. So that could be a breaker for them in the scheme of having that element as part of the park. So we'll just have to see. Another thing to add on the list, Devin, would be kind of our park standard signage. And then just the last detail, but that the walk on the plan that was included in our agenda, the walk along South Country Club Avenue was labeled as future. I think, the perimeter walk along the park needs to be built when the park is built and not, yes. Yep. So. At the road, yeah, thank you, the road side, that would be the west side. And that just may be an oversight from their original plans and stuff, we'll just have to see.
How do we feel about that name? I don't know if that's a family name or where they're coming up with that. Do you know anything about that?
I mean, usually those things are part of the donation agreement. So I don't know if don't have one, so I don't know if the city has special naming regulations, but yeah, I agree with you, Barb. I wondered about that as well, that it's probably something that at least needs to be signed off on by council, right? As part of the agreement, so.
I mean, isn't it kind of the same thing with the street names? It's usually the name of their kids or grandkids or whatever. I mean, yeah. I mean, look at up where I live. I mean, you got Seth Street and all those other, I mean, they're just kids' names, so.
Developers pick them, and that's what these are too. So we have Christensen Street, which is the development, but then all of their kids, the Alexa, the Ryder, those. Yep, it's their kids. And then we go through them and make sure that we don't have, anything close to that in town and do the directionals and that sort of thing. But for the most part, the developer picks it.
So is there any more thoughts on this at all?
Well, I appreciate that Devin put this together. I think we need to give them some guidelines because I have a feeling that they think that, it's free.
Everything goes.
It's free, so you'll
Anything.
take whatever we give you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we need to put some guardrails on them and have them, I had hoped that they were going to be here tonight, get them in here next time and talk to them.
As far as the security lighting, Devin, what
would-
should be,
I mean,
what should be there?
Yard lights, more, I don't know what else you'll call them, is what I'm thinking of.
I would assume that there would be street lighting, right, as part of the development, but then lighting associated with the shelter building. And again, I think when we see a more detailed plan, that would hopefully be answered.
Because like right now, Aspen, like those courts, those aren't lit, right?
Well, and that's what, Devin's comment to me in there about like lighting for the pickleball court, question mark. I just think it's something that needs to be discussed. And it's not,
If they're willing to pay for it and do it, then, as part of the package, then of course,
but it's also it's a neighbor thing too. depending upon the lights that they choose. But, you know, ultimately, I don't want to seem ungrateful for any of this. That's not my point. I
And
just
that's-
want to make sure that we,
We're trying to make that point too. It's like,
you know,
all right, there, no one's ever given us built us a park before.
you know,
But we
there's just-
still, you know, just like I've talked with Tammy, if you build a development, you still have to build your streets a certain way, you have to build your sewers a certain way. So we don't have anything set up because no one's ever done it, so I don't know if it'll happen again or not, but
Yeah.
just so we don't end up with, a little,
1-inch concrete walk and,
and one of those wooden playgrounds with the,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
yeah, and that. It could be retro park. And that's just where I think they need to come back to us once they have their prices put together and what they're proposing, and, or at least come back to you. And if it needs to come to us, fine, but to make sure that we're getting what we would do, right? So, and if it is a little bit less, you know, I mean, just because of the way things are, then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this is great. I mean, what they're looking to give is tremendous. And if prices mean that, well, we can't do all that, then maybe they have to cut some things out, and that's understandable. Can't fault them for that.
I kind of have a question that may be off the topic, but, so if we end up doing a bike trail off of Aspen to go down the hill, because we can't do it down the hill, if we do it somewhere up above, where would that intersect with this property approximately? Do we have any idea? Because what I'm wondering is if those properties along East Alexa Lane, if we shouldn't have some sort of an easement, like at the corner of East Christensen Street, going, I gotta get my directions, west, to allow for some sort of a bike trail access? You know what I mean? And do it while they're planning it, so they can adjust their lot sizes accordingly, instead of trying to do it at a later date. You know, we're trying to get these bike trails in these developments so that everybody has access. And I don't want it to be, if we're going to have one that direction, I don't want to have all of these lots already planned and in development before we have to try to figure out how we're gonna get a bike trail around there, and then it's 2 blocks this way, so you gotta jog, and, you know, it's better just to have it straight through. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we kind of went around and around about that because everything in red there, that is a 10-foot wide shared use path, so that's the bike path. My thought was they would come down to that park and then take that, what they have yellow on the path there. I really feel like that should be paved and 10-foot wide and continue that as the bike trail. Because if you look to the south there, there is just enough room there around those wetlands that we would be able to put a path that just follows those wetlands and the railroad tracks, and then follow that all the way to McCarty Road, which would get us over the river because we have the bridge there at McCarty, and then it would connect with McCarty Park there. To me, I think that's the only way we're going to get that connectivity there until we have to replace that big bridge on Aspen, which is in good shape. So that's not gonna happen in the next 20 years.
Right, I thought about that too, but that seems really far south when you're talking about trying to get kids across that, you know, down the hill and across the river. I mean, that seems like a long way to go for them. When you think about kids coming from the Chestnut area and that, you know, because they're gonna have to use it too. It just seems like that's a long way. That's a hike.
Yeah, the problem is that one little strip of property where they have that really long driveway. Because Christensen doesn't own that, that's right next to the river.
Yep.
So it would be nice if it would just cut through there and then follow the river down, even if it was in the floodplain a little bit. But there's really no way to get it in there. It's gonna be too steep to go down that path.
Okay.
So we did talk about doing it behind those houses, but people hate walking paths behind their houses. Like, and we just don't have a good system set up. Like, we don't know what's gonna work and what's not.
They don't
So-
hate them if they're already there.
That's Well, they
Well,
may
we're
hate
not
them, but
getting
they're,
on there
but they
before.
already, they're aware of it. When they buy the lot, they're aware that there is a walking path back there.
Yeah, I don't think that matters. Because on the east side with that school going in, we've talked about it a couple times, and boy, I have 3 homeowners that just call me up and threaten me because they can't put a path back there even though there's a sidewalk easement there. And it's on their plat, and I've sent it to them, but. So, it was discussed when we were doing it, and I'm not saying it can't happen because we could go between those two, like cross Alexa Lane and go across like by Christensen Street and get to the back there, but they don't own that property either. And we can certainly ask for easements along that back property line, but then you're kind of in that middle of that next parcel, and we don't know how that's gonna develop.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm just thinking, even if we have the easement in place, and then if that property with the long weird driveway would ever sell and be developed, then the easement's already in place to go through there. The problem, at least with the homeowners on the east side with the new school and stuff, we have a leg to stand on saying, this was here when you bought your property. This has been in our plans for a long time. They might not be happy with it, I understand that, but at least it's not something we're springing on them at the last minute. Do you see what I mean? I don't know. I just think that, yes, going down by the railroad is a great possibility because it's away from all the houses and stuff like that.
And it's away from the roads and stuff too.
But
which
it's away
makes it
from the
nice.
roads, so you can't, police have a hard time monitoring it, that kind of thing. And what happens if Eastern and Ellis ever put that track back in and want to use that? Then we have
Well,
a,
we'd be outside there right away.
Yeah, we're
well,
not gonna be in there
I
right
understand that,
away
but you
off.
have a walking path then right by railroad tracks. So you have kids playing and riding their bikes and stuff right by active railroad tracks.
Yeah,
That's just my thought.
I grew up on active railroad tracks. We flattened a lot of pennies. Yeah.
Put your pennies on the rails so they get flattened.
That's, we're tougher now.
No, I'm just
Yeah, and
sorry.
we were trying to keep it so that the path would be on the north side of those wetlands, so it wouldn't be right up against that railroad right away. But some people really like it along the road, some people hate it along the road. If we had them all along the river, we'd have more maintenance and drainage issues, so there's no perfect way to put it in there.
No, I was just trying to plan for the future, if we can put it in easement now so that it's done and we're not trying to fight homeowners and property owners later when we need an easement or an access. Just trying to look forward instead of being reactive, trying to be proactive. If we never use it, we never use it, but if it's there, we would at least have the option. That's just my thought.
So you would want an easement along the back of all of those lots?
No, what I'm saying is just an easement across the 2 lots from Christensen Street. That lot that's right across there, that kind of has a little pie thing.
So, okay,
Go
so
point it out.
just west of Christensen Street?
So this one here,
That one?
going
Yeah.
through that way. Because then if this ever gets developed, then you have access in there to go here and then down in here and get across the road. So my thought, that's a bigger lot,
Yeah. that's
so it would
doable.
have room in the lot without really scrunching the lot too much.
All right, we'll see what I can do.
All right. Any other comments for Tammy or Devin?
Mindy, it all relies on them actually reading their plat.
I know. Okay, when Midco put in those stupid ugly boxes, I didn't read my plat to know that they had the right of way and the ability to put those big ugly boxes on my property, so.
But they're providing you a potential service.
No, they're not.
Well, no, maybe not you, but somebody else who lives there.
They are not providing me with any service. I know.
But that's, I mean, it's the same thing as trails. That's why it's there. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
I agree.
didn't realize that they had the right to do that because I didn't read my plat.
Oh, duh, that's fine.
Any recommendations on how wide that easement should be? If we wanna put a 10-foot path through there, do we need 10 feet on each side? Do we need,
That's a lot.
yeah, I
You're
mean,
not gonna like
it
that?
could be 30 feet pretty easily, 15 on each
I would-
side,
I would just do 5 feet on either side, call it 20.
call it 20 on each lot.
Our mowers are 6 foot wide.
Oh, yeah.
All right, 6 foot.
So 18 feet would give you 3 stripes.
No, well, you'd have a 10-foot,
You'd have
so
a 10-foot
you'd-
paved surface in the middle.
it'd be 22 feet. Yeah.
By the time that gets used, you're gonna have a 40-foot mower.
I mean,
You're not gonna be able to fit it
it's
down
a-
there anyway.
It's a short, I mean, to me, it's a short distance, right? It's not,
It's not very big.
so it's all about making the connection. It's not about anything else. And we would've, yeah,
So would it
I'm
make
just gonna,
sense?
I'm just gonna stay quiet.
She's just gonna check it.
20?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's gonna have to,
20.
she's gonna have to work with the engineer and developer and see what they think they can do. All right. Item number 11, 2023 projects update, since we're almost out of 23 down.
Yeah, I know. Some of these are, pool lights is still being worked on. We're having trouble finding lights that fit our old light sockets. Larry is working hard on trying to scramble and find anything anywhere that will fit. Pioneer Park restroom is 80% done. They had some issues. The guy that was in charge of the project left the company, so then a new guy took over and he's having trouble finding some of the parts. So they're not gonna get done this year, but I'll get them to bill us for what's done. Next year, hopefully all they have to do is paint the doors and maybe a couple other minor things to get it done. Then the only other one is the Aspen Path. We're just waiting for them to show up and pour concrete, hopefully tomorrow. But it's all staked out and lined and everything, so we're just waiting for them.
How far is it gonna go?
It comes up to the third base dugout on C.
So we're doing about $85,000 worth. That's kind of our goal.
Yeah. There'll be some extra too, because there's a lot of sprinklers in there, so we'll have to pay to fix those and get those back to working next spring, probably. But
And then we did a little minor sewer project.
oh, that's right. The sewer from the north concession stand, since we're gonna be doing the playground with that poured-in-place surfacing, they had a manhole clean out in the playground, so we had to move that outside of the playground. So that's done now.
And then we put in a water meter pit for the RC track.
Oh, yep.
So if you remember, we had about 125,000 in the budget for Tallgrass parking lot. We pretty much spent that now in Aspen Park, doing all those little maintenance.
What do we have in the plan for next year? That was really our last year that we had any money. What do we have in there?
Playground at Aspen is next year.
And then we have trails.
Trails.
I think we have 125,000 in there for trails, which I would, because we were talking about doing that one section in the book and then that one section on the east side. I think what we should do, since DOT changed their TAP program, that Transportation Alternatives Program. Before it was you applied for the money and you had to pay that 18 to 20%, they paid that 80%, but only up to $400,000. Now they took that max off. So, but what they want to see instead now is we have to do environmental and we have to do design. So I think I'd like to, this next year, do the design, do the environmental, apply for the funds. And then if we have money next year, say we have that 100,000, then we just do as much of one of those trails as we can. For that 20%, which would get us a long ways.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
We're also doing the lights on Field B and possibly more depending on when the bid comes back, so. I think that's it.
Is hockey starting?
Yes.
The dirt work looked good.
Yep, they're down there
Okay.
right now.
Is that there, that's them down there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're moving.
Okay, thanks for the updates, both of you. Last item, tree board items. Devin?
That was a riveting item.
Yep, so the ash tree project for this year is done, went well. Next year is the area from north of Holly, east of Sioux, south of Redwood, and west of Tallgrass Park.
And
That's you? Okay. Start thinking about what you want to do with trees. There are roughly 110 ash trees the last time we counted. So most of them, like this year, there was 123 trees when we originally counted. We only ended up taking out 45. So everybody has either been taking them out or they're treating more than I kind of thought they would. So we'll see if that keeps up or not.
I can ID some other trees you can pull out.
I'll do that. Yeah, that's about it. Speaking of ash trees, aspen, we have all of them out of aspen that are gonna get removed except for the two between A and D. And we're just gonna do those once the ground freezes, so we don't make a mess in there. Otherwise, everything else is either treated or gone.
So what are we doing to replace trees? Boulevards, but like at Aspen or McCarty or those other parks that we're taking them out of, or do we have a plan to replace them?
Not a
Plan?
but the last two Arbor Days have been down in Aspen Park planting trees. We did them along the road last year. This year we did those ones along the property line where we removed a bunch. That's probably gonna be our Arbor Day thing for a while, just replace ash trees that we've taken out.
Aspen Park, the home of Arbor Day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, wait till we get to McCarty. I don't even want to think about starting there. Those are all way bigger than anything we took out in Aspen, so.
Just curious, what kinds of trees are you putting in when you replace?
Variety. Very random, different stuff.
Whatever's on sale?
Sometimes, yes. I'll go out to Oak Ridge and my brother will say, why don't you plant these over here? It's like, all right, they're cheap. So yeah, just a lot of variety is what we're doing, so a little of everything.
All right, looking forward to it. I can't believe that program's been going on as long as it has been already. We've made some good distance.
Remember the fear when we first started talking about it and the unknown?
All goes according to plan, in 2030, that will be our last year in theory. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Once we get south of Casey's and west of Sioux, the trees get big. So that'll slow us down a little bit, but no, it's going well.
We can only manage the parts we can manage, right? There's gonna be, some of the natural areas are gonna be what it's gonna be. So,
We're not touching anything on the hill at McCarty Park or along the river. They're just gonna have to do what they do. We can't get to them if we wanted to.
okay, next meeting would be,
Do we meet in December?
well, technically it says the 20th. My question,
We missed last month, so we have to do so many meetings. Don't we have to do 10 meetings?
Maybe as long as we.
you have weird dreams.
Evidently.
I mean, I don't care. I don't think so. Look at the library.
Well, how about we do this? I mean, from my perspective, we cannot have a meeting in December unless something comes up, which would foster us having to have one.
How do we advertise something like that, though?
Well, what,
Canceled it 4 hours
yeah,
before the meeting, so it wasn't really advertised.
yeah.
So then it would be January 17th?
Do we think we're gonna have anything, other than maybe this park thing? I don't know. Should we schedule it and then,
Schedule it and cancel it if they.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right, so,
Hopefully we might have maybe a playground quote and a drawing or a light quote
So,
and,
all right,
stuff like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
maybe.
If
Okay.
we don't have anything, then we can,
Yeah.
yep,
Go to the VF.
all right,
There
so
you go.
we'll,
That idea.
we'll plan on December 20th at 5:15, if everyone's okay with that.
Perfect.
Agenda to be determined. status to be determined, but at least it's on the schedule. And if that does not happen, then January 17th will be the next meeting. 5:15, headed into the new year. Everybody okay with that still?
I can't believe it's gonna be Thanksgiving already.
And there are 29 days in February next year,
Oh, there are? Is it
just in
leap year?
case you're paying attention. All right, I will happily take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? We are adjourned.